Good morning, my MCS family, mold illness slash Lyme community. Woke up just as ugly as ever. So I had to do a part two of this whole mystery toxin ordeal. I received a lot of flack and negativity and all that stuff, and I knew it was coming because it's two names in particular. You know, these people just look up to these two people and they think they're God. And if it helps you, I'm all for it. My healing journey is different than yours, but I want to go a little bit more in detail about MT and why that term aggravates me, and I think it's not a good term or not a good description. Okay, so MT by two names in particular is described as a mystery toxin. Okay, in my last video we talked about natural molds and got a lot of flack, like I said, a lot of negativity, but I'm going to further debunk some of this stuff. And but first I want to start out with this. I read one of the posts, and I'm not going to name names, but it was on the mold community, and he was talking about it would, you know, avoid mold would cure food allergies, and it would cure this and it would cure that. I thought that's not true. That's bullcrap, because I want to explain something to you. I've carried this around for 30 years. This is my EpiPen. I was born with 13 different food allergies. Okay, before I even come out of the womb, I was allergic to peanuts, nuts, eggs, shrimp, chocolate, soy, nuts, etc., etc. Now, when I got MCS, I developed food intolerances to dairy, which I drank my whole life. I had no issues with. Sugar, I developed intolerances to it. I also developed intolerances to breads, which I'd eat my whole life. It wasn't until I became environmentally sensitive I developed food intolerances, but it's not an actual IgE allergy. So, you know, these guys don't even know the difference between a IgE allergy versus a food intolerance. It's two totally different things. When you're exposed to a lot of mold or a lot of chemicals, your environmental barrel fills up, and your intolerances to chemicals and stuff and foods go down. So your intolerances is what these guys is seeing improve. So for somebody like me, yeah, if I avoid mold and avoid all this stuff, I'm going to see improvements with the intolerances, but it will not fix my peanut allergy. There is no fixing it. I was born this way. So when I see these guys get on here and they make these outrageous claims, getting out of mold is going to fix your food allergies, that's a load. Number two, let's get back on MT. I don't want to make a real long video about this because it's just common sense. You know, it's not a mystery. One of the comments, I had to laugh at it because somebody wrote, well, what about Tulsa, Oklahoma? Why does everybody get sick there? Okay, well, number one, I think it was like 50 miles or 60 miles from a nuclear bomb testing site. They actually done a show on it. It's called While the Rest of Us Die, and I think it was season 2, episode 2. And on that episode, there's a Native American village that was within 50, 60 miles of that, and a lot of them got cancer. Okay, you know, that's not a mystery toxin. Okay, that's an explanation. You know, I just don't like the term at all. This mystery toxin ordeal. Number three, is you have to understand when you become environmentally sensitive, and I'm going to use environmentally sensitive because I'm covering people that usually MCS and mold, and usually all this is kind of, you know, one web, you know, the food intolerances, you know, want to tell you it's all this, want to tell you it's all that, want to tell you it's all, and it's not. It's usually it's a multi-systematic thing. I had a guy tell me that, you know, mold caused his illness, which it might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, and I believe what he's saying. But he's also worked in a perfume shop before his mold illness, so he had years of chemical exposure before the mold finally, I guess, was the straw that broke the camel's back. So you know, I just use these as examples. But anyway, back on track. So it all comes down to environmental load. And mystery toxin, there is no mystery toxin. It's, everything's explainable, you know. And back to my point is, when you're this environmentally sensitive, and like I said, encompasses all these conditions, if you're around certain trees, certain pollens, whatever, you can become sensitized to that area. So, and I've caught them in a few fallacies. Use this for example. They say that like certain areas EMTs at certain times of the year. Okay, well, think of a biorhythm. Okay, certain trees and certain, like, I'm sensitive to pine trees, I'm sensitive to spruce, but they only dump molds and pollens at a certain time of year. So that would make perfect sense why MT would exist at certain times of the year. So, okay, think a person that's allergic to pollen, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe the VOC's off that certain kind of tree. If you go on pollen.com, or if you go on some of the mold websites, the natural molds in certain areas, the pollens will be higher in certain times of the year. So that would explain that. So that's not even worth, you know, a whole book or a whole, you know, it's just common sense stuff. And I'm not hating on the guy. It's just, you know, I mean, you think somebody would know that. You know, if you know ragweed's going to come out and it's going to be bad for 4 weeks, and it's on the news channel, well, naturally, you know, you're going to go downhill if you're environmentally sensitive, okay? Even if it's not the pollen off the tree, maybe it's the VOCs off the tree, or maybe, you know, one of the comments I got is, the world's not a petri dish. It's not an organism. That's crap too, because the Earth actually, in what scientists call the Goldilocks zone, which is the perfect place for life as we know it to grow. So yes, the world is kind of like a big petri dish. I mean, I don't even know where to start with, you know, some of this stuff on these mold groups, but, you know, I'll use this for another example. So, I'm environmentally sensitive. Let's say I'm in Virginia, and I do well here for 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I get sensitive to what's around me. So then I think, okay, oh, it's EMT, it's something mystery. No, my body got sensitized to the area. So I move into another location. I do fine. My body's exposed to new pollens, new molds, etc., etc. My body does well dealing with that, okay? All right. 2 or 3 years down the road, same thing happens. You start going back downhill. So that's why you see a lot of the mold community, you know, they'll move around. They'll go to different areas. They'll do well here for a while. They'll do well here for a while. that explains that. So no mystery there. It's kind of like, you know, use the food intolerances as an example. You eat the same food every day, you know, and if it's something in it that's not agreeing with your body, you can develop an intolerance to it. So the same way with an area, you know, if the area is not good, you know, for you, or if it's giving you environmental load, you know, what's the mystery about it? You know, that's what my question is. But that's pretty much all I got on mystery toxin. If it's working for y'all, that's great. Me personally, I've had allergies for 30 years, almost 30 years. And I know the environmental sensitive thing, and, you know, I've been at different locations, and usually it's the same thing that starts over. And what disappoints me is you'll see people do avoidance 15, 20, 25 years, and, you know, they're like 20, 30%. And I've got 30% from, I didn't change locations, nothing like that. I've got 30, 35% from just working on my gut health, like, you know, doing a Zen cleanse, because when you have bad bacteria in your stomach and your own flora is poisoning you directly, you know, from the Zen cleanse, my food intolerances just went up within a week. And I don't ever see it mentioned on the mole websites. I don't ever see it mentioned on any of them. And it's disappointing to me, because if your own biofilm is poisoning you, which is very possible, when I worked in a laboratory, there was a lady that they talked about. I can't tell names or anything like that, HIPAA. And her gut was so messed up, they give her suppositories to rebuild her flora up. She had become so intolerant to food. And so, you know, it's just logic and common sense. You know, if your own biofilm's poisoning you, and if that's something that you can work on, then maybe the outside won't bother you as much. And anyway, it's getting too long. People that get it. People that don't. And if you just want to do this to avoidance and nothing else, that's fine. But I just don't think it's the track for healing. I was reading through one of the mold groups. Somebody was asked about new carpet, and they was saying, what about the off gas in the carpet? And one of the admins wrote back, I'd be worried about it having the bad stuff in it. And I'm like, you can go to Walmart. You got all walks of life. You got contractors in there that's walking around. They just gutted a moldy house, and you're walking behind them. You can get mold on your clothes right there, microtoxins. You know, it ain't a little, you know, what does that pertain, you know? It's a little on the extreme side, you know. It's like, if your avoidance, you know, instead of putting so much emphasis on avoidance, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving you medical advice, but wouldn't you rather work on getting your tolerances up, you know, find out what works and what's going to help build your body back up? Because, you know, you can only take the avoidance so far. I mean, I could, you know, walk a Walmart and get contaminated from, you know, new clothes or whatever. Somebody took it back, you know, left it in the moldy closet, whatever. You know, it's just so many fallacies there, you know. They got people so focused on just that mold avoidance. And I'm not saying, you know, go move in a house of black mold, but some of it just gets to extremes. But that's all I got on it. And God bless. Best of luck to them. But I don't buy into that MT crap.